Hey, Gavox here. So I want to give my final thoughts on Madden 20's beta and what I experienced over the weekend, what I got through. So let's get right into it. My overall beta thoughts, I'm glad that they do it every year. It was shorter than last year for some reason. I don't know why it's so short. Maybe it's because it's more like a demo than a beta. It felt like with the way they handed out codes, they used it as marketing. And for that, you can kind of fault them a little bit. Maybe they should give it to people that pre-ordered, legendary MUT reward members. There's a lot of other ways they can do it, and we'll see what they decide on next year if they do code giveaways, because they like the way it got like a lot of people begging and blowing up their social media accounts. So with that, and also next year for the beta, I hope that they add MUT into the mix, not just like franchise and reg head-to-head, because with MUT, like Diamond Dynasty did it, they basically gave us like 100,000 stubs, or MUT could give us 100,000 coins a day, allow us to open packs, take cards off the market, using like last year's card art and all that stuff, so that way we can actually get kind of a comparable environment to what we will use for the next year for these cards, right? Because testing in regular head-to-head is not going to be the mode that most of us play the year, right? Most of us are going to be playing in MUT for our head-to-head wants and needs. So it's kind of like false testing, because the stats definitely matter and they definitely make a difference. And we'll get into a little bit of how that affected the game on down the line. So I myself found a couple glitched runs and some play art issues. So I reported that to EA. And hopefully that gets taken care of before the game. So the people that say the beta is flawless, the beta is the best Madden's ever been, you're wrong. I think like a lot of people say, and I'm just gonna say this up front before we move forward, that Madden shouldn't be patched. Just put it out and then forget about it. I don't like that opinion. I don't think the game is the best state it's in all year when it launches. I am not one of those people that will go to that. Like, how do we trust them to develop the game, but then we don't trust them to develop it more through the year? I think like patches in an overall sense are a good thing. Now there are some negatives to patches when they screw things up, like contains and the fall forward glitch, which then got repatched out of the game, but 3 weeks later, or maybe it was a month. I forgot how long it took them to patch the fall forward glitch after it came out. Maybe it was only 2 weeks. I don't remember. Anyways, so in my opinion, patches are good. And they are needed. I just hope they don't patch it like right away. Like, I hope they take a lot of our feedback and then like kind of like sit on it, test it internally, and then maybe take like a month and a half. Like the first patch, maybe if the game comes out July 22nd, maybe make it early September. Early to mid-September should be our first patch for 20. That way there's plenty of time to get our feedback, because once we get the feedback in the first week will not be the same feedback you might get like a month into the game. So maybe that's what we want to do, not wait for the overreactions on the cards that we have early on. But I think the biggest point of view, or the biggest, I'd say, flashpoint for the community was the pass rush. And is the pass rush too strong? I put out a tweet, and it blew some people's minds because I had people arguing with me that I had the wrong stats. Can you imagine that? People arguing against reality and statistics and saying the stats are wrong. A lot of people and a lot of this false notions got out to the community that the NFL, like, you got to get the ball out in 2.7 seconds. That's false. Quarterbacks on average get the ball out in 2.7 seconds in the NFL. And you got to remember that they can like quick throw it too, snap it, quick throw it. We don't really have that option in Madden, because once you snap and quick throw it, just bounces off your tight end's head and it falls to the ground. In the NFL, it takes 4.3 seconds approximately. That's the average, 4.3 seconds to get a sack. And that is the average. So you should have 4.3 seconds in the pocket on average. Now, of course, you'll have players like Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt that instantly blow past those trash tier offensive linemen and get an instant sack. But that doesn't happen every single time they get a sack, right? Aaron Donald is the fastest person in the league from snap of the ball to sack. The fastest average player in the league, and he gets 3.6 seconds and his average. So the average time in the pocket, I would ideally want it, because in MUT we have all-pro tackles, guards, centers going against all-pro ends, defensive tackles, so on. I think in MUT, in my ideal world, on average, I think a sack should get home between maybe mid-threes at the fastest. Mid-3 seconds, 4 seconds to 5 seconds, right? I think 5.5 is when it, like on a 4-man rush I'm talking about. 3-man rush, it should be longer. But like between that kind of maybe even 4 to 5 seconds, and that's kind of like the Goldilocks zone. Like you need to have your read, you're done, and then the sack's getting home at that point. So that is my dream Madden right now on the with the pass rush. When you played in the Pro Bowl, that those sacks were getting home in like 2-3 seconds. It felt like there was instant wins. You were getting pressured. You needed to get it out ASAP. And then you played online head to head, which is why I hated it. Online head to head, you had a lot more time, and so we didn't really know what game we're testing, because was it an insane pass rush, or was it kind of like it was okay? I mean, slightly faster than 19, but nothing special. And that's one of the problems I have with the beta. So that's still up to decide. Like we'll see what they do with the stats, especially because with Mutt, they should have more balanced cards through the year, going against each other. Franchise will have similar things. I wish in the future, because I saw an EA employee tweet this out, and I asked him, and it was because somebody, I think Matster said something about Aaron Donald destroying his offensive line. He's like, well, you got to double Aaron Donald. And I said, wait, is there a mechanic in game to call a double team against a defensive lineman? No response. There's no mechanic to do that, right? Like the fact that say, oh, you got to double Aaron Donald. If there was an actual mechanic in game where it can do that on like reg rosters, that'd be cool. But EA just hasn't put that into the game, so I don't know why they're saying that. As for the pass rush and it being harsh, crossers in Madden, I looked at it about 19. Takes about 5.5 seconds to get from their spot to the other, right? 5 to 5.5 seconds. So that should be like, you should be getting sacked right when the crosser hits that opposite sidelines. Now, crosser, and we'll talk about man coverage, is shut down a little bit by that this year. Why don't we just talk about man coverage right now? Press seems pretty good against like the RPOs, and the RPOs were a really nice addition to the game. We'll talk about that too. Man defense, it looks pretty good. Not that there's when man coverage is overbearing, I think it makes for a bad game, right? When all you have to do is set it and forget it, and you really don't have to do anything as a user, and man coverage is impossible to beat when you got like top end corners. Say your team's nothing but like Deion Sanders, Pat Pete, all the top end man coverage corners, and your wide receivers can't get any separation. That's terrible. But if there are tools to beat man coverage like there should be, I think it's fine for it to be powerful, especially against something like crossers. Like, say if you want to shut down crossers, all you have to do is call man coverage on it. Like maybe zones can't stop it. It didn't look like zones worked against crossers again. As weird as it is, like the only time I saw a zone work against man crossers was, I think it was a mid-read zone against like tight flex. I think I spent 90% of my time in practice mode. So I think that was it. Maybe it's mid-read works against crossers. And it actually held up pretty decently. Of course, because of the linebacker versus the wide receiver at the end got a little separation. But it actually held up pretty nicely. So, man coverage looks to be viable. But of course, we're going to get to the point where people are going to find plays that'll beat both man and zone with like speed out routes, corner routes, that kind of stuff. So, we'll see what happens with man, but yeah, I think when the game launches, you'll want to have a man-beating offense, or at least a play or two that you can kind of rely on. Sharp corner routes really work against man. Out routes work against man. Like this game felt a lot more like 18 than 19, because in 19, out routes just don't work against man, but in 18 they did, and it looks like it's working again. I tried a lot of glitches from 18 in 20 in the beta, and they didn't work too, like the run pass tell glitch, the high point rack fade glitch. A couple other glitches I tried from my videos that I put out didn't work. I didn't try, like I tried C routes, but I'm like, wait, these guys don't have 91 zone anyways. So we'll see what Madden 20 is without. It's like 18 without 91 zones. So a lot of swing routes, and I think the RPO is gonna be great for having a run go one way and like a bubble route going the other, because the bubble route is going to make it so like a player that maybe wants to blitz you a lot send 6. If you can send a bubble and throw around their blitz, and then take it down for like 20, 30 yards on the sideline, that's going to be freaking amazing. And especially because like in previous Maddens, when I'd throw like a swing screen or a bubble, like I think orbits are pretty good in the game now. The user would just go chase it, right? Because there's no read option. Like right now, if the user goes out and chases that bubble or that swing screen, now you just have a nice run up the middle that you can do against their defense. So it kind of it forces a lot of people maybe out of that baseline heavy blitz in the middle type of defense or user. You'll have some user rushes too, but takes a lot of kind of focus away from that. So hopefully that helps balance out those heavy blitzes, because I imagine that the meta for 20 at the beginning of it is going to be similar to what it is at 19 before we kind of evolve. We're going to get some bunch, Going to get some contain blitzes. I think trips is going to be in the meta just due to that kind of RPO bubble type stuff. Just myself. That's what I'm going to be running a lot of because that's the kind of offense that I find interesting. It's a little bit off meta. So I think trips will still be in it because, inside zone looked a little powerful. Power O runs looked pretty decent. Like I said, like Madden 18. So running seemed pretty good. As for running itself, the juke is kind of the new move, especially with somebody that's really good at juking. Like Melvin Gordon had like a juke specialist, so he was great. A lot of the abilities making the players feel unique is awesome. I think what's an issue we're going to find in MUT is that... Actually, let me circle back around to the running and the juking first before we get back down to abilities. Sorry if I'm all over the place. So, with the running game, spins definitely got nerfed. Jukes are going to be it. And it makes sense. In the real NFL, jukes are what a majority of the players use to break tackles. Now, my issue is like a lot of tackles in the NFL are broken by arm tackles, right? And the player really can't determine an arm tackle. The best we can do is get our player close and hope the animation takes us away from an arm tackle breakage. So that, like, how does Madden represent or put arm tackles into the game? Maybe a timing with hitting A to when your conservative tackle kind of takes over to when your player tries to tackle the running back. Maybe that's it in the future. Like, you got to really be dick on hip to do it instead of like doing it too far away. And there's a little bit of that with like, dive and missing hit sticks and stuff, but I don't know. When you go against three guys, you're definitely getting tackled now, right? You could fall forward a little bit, but it is very hard to escape it. There's no major spins. Jukes help a little. I've juked out 2 people, 3 people's asking a little bit too much. Unless it's like perfectly lined up. Maybe a user fucks up there too. But so I think get out of the whole spin thing next year. I didn't use many trucking backs, so I don't have an opinion on those yet. The truck animations, I didn't really use any LeGarrette Blunts or anything huge like that. So we'll see what that is. But running backs felt pretty good on the stick. I think the player movement has definitely stepped up from 19, but I think 19's player movement was kind of in the toilet with the one cut. One cut was really nice to show I guess like a skill gap for people that could use the one cut and people that didn't use it and people that use spins instead. So the one cut was really cool because it made cool highlights, kind of like slow down and burst one way, because you didn't see that very often. Like the best montage I've seen in the Madden community was the one cut montage by Decroft. Now I know Sav said he's been doing it all year. He just never made a montage of it, but it is really cool looking when you slow down and then burst around somebody. So the one cut montage felt like a skill gap. They got rid of the one cut. Probably the coolest montage since I said Addy Cards, Madden 25, Megatron's montage. For the people that watched Addy Cards back in the day. But yeah, one cut's gone. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I think it's fine. I think because the player movement is improved. So I think player movement's good. It's moving in the right direction. I just hope they don't forget about it going into 21. Like, player movement's gotten better, but it's not nearly the best video game player movement I've seen in my life. So if they keep moving on to better player movement going forward, I'm all for that. I want them to keep working on it year to year. Don't just kind of like rest on your laurels of this year's player movement and then forget about it next year. Keep trying to make our controllers translate very well to the players on the field. And I think that's a great goal to have. So, yeah, like I said, juke's better. Man defense we talked about. Zone press is good against RPOs too. The press rating looks like it'll matter next year. I don't know if presses will be overpowered. Maybe the meta is going to be press and heavy blitz. Maybe the meta is going to be press, heavy, and then user blitz. Because user blitzes are definitely back. Like, you're able to shoot through that gap like crazy. So, contain user blitzes. So that way they're not able to get outside the pocket. You can collapse on it. Now let's get on to like players and their abilities. So Tom Brady versus Mahomes. Everybody came into the beta seeing the highlights from Mahomes, and EA did a great job marketing Mahomes, Cam Newton, the scrambling stuff, and how they're able to move in the pocket. But in the end, I saw a lot of top-end players saying Tom Brady is overpowered as fuck, which is amazing to me. To make a quarterback, a statue quarterback, something that's sitting in the pocket the whole time, into somebody that everybody's like, wow, this guy is too powerful not to use. Because over the years, we've seen so many people that just use, Vic, Lamar, the fast scrambling quarterbacks throwing out their back foot to make people change their ways. is a great accomplishment for the EA developers, and I'm all for that. So that is really nice. Maybe people said Tom Brady was too overpowered due to the route chems, and I can see that. Those route chems, like we saw this year, are going to take over the game. Maybe the thing is, like, with the route chems, wide receivers have them on themselves stock. So for Mutt, we're going to get like Antonio Brown with his wide receiver route chems, and a few others, and we'll have legend wide receivers and stuff too. So will route chems take over the game, and like you'll be able to still use Vic anyways? Probably. And I think that'll be kind of disappointing. So like people will just move on from Tom Brady, but his benefit is he allows like better pass blocking and whatnot. So we'll see if Tom Brady ends up being overpowered or not. I like Tom better than like Roethlisberger, for example. So even in the stratosphere of pocket passers, Tom's just that much better than Roethlisberger. Because Roethlisberger's pump fake, I didn't really get anything to work on it, right? Like it seemed like a very useless skill. Like I tried to pump fake out deep thirds, didn't happen. Tried to pump fake out other routes, didn't really happen or do anything to it. So maybe I just didn't find the right combination. But the pump fake ability in Roethlisberger, trash. So yeah, Roethlisberger not going to be meta this year. But we'll see how the game launches, or maybe I just didn't test it correctly. But I spent a good 5-10 minutes on it. Maybe that's not enough to find everything or anything. So with players and their abilities in Mutt, now I think we're going to be able to choose your ability based off archetype. Now, is that a good solution? Do we want every single pocket passer in Mutt being the same? Do we want Breeze to have the same ability types as Brady, as Marino, and all that stuff? In my opinion, I think that's a mistake. In my opinion, making these players stand out and be different and have different aspects towards them is important, even in Mutt, where like you want a lot of choices for your team. I think the choices you want to make on cards is for building your team and your play style, right? And then like even more in depth is to customizing that play style. Like so, I've argued for like a kind of like a hybrid approach. Like some guys will have these traits or abilities or stat boosts or something about them that is just on them. That is just who they are. And then you'll be able to customize it through like another customization, say chemistries. So the chemistries will allow them to give them the boosts to their stats to kind of like make up for what they're lacking in, or kind of help the team boost, that kind of stuff. So ideally, in my ideal world, I don't think it's going to work this way. I think Mutt's going to allow you to choose based off archetypes, since they basically confirmed that. I think ideally Tom Brady comes with his specific skill sets, and Aaron Rodgers comes with his specific skill sets, and so on down the line, so that way you can choose between which guy you want instead of picking and choosing the abilities on whatever player you choose. I think that'll lead to better roster construction and choices and who you use. Now you could say maybe one gets overpowered and you have to keep that guy on your team all year. Well, that's on the game developers to balance, and they need to issue a patch to nerf it or buff other players back to being a stable environment there. So I am excited that Tom Brady was OP. As for players feeling unique and the superstar abilities, I think theme teams are going to be very hard pressed in 20 to be competitively viable like they were in 19, just due to the star abilities. Like if you run against a regular team in 19, like a regular just like Mutt team with your Steelers theme team, Patriots theme team, whatever, you could easily hold your own, easily win that game, right? But I think in 20, with the superstar abilities and the lack of superstar abilities and X factors and all that jazz on kind of like the mid-tier, lower-tier guys, is going to make those theme teams not viable. So I wonder, I don't know if they're going to do any boosts for theme teams again this year. If they do, I think there will need to be more. I think people have gotten very weird about theme teams lately with the speed boosts. They're like, oh, it's too much for speed boosts. And I just don't think those people are correct. I think the speed boosts are perfectly fine on theme teams. If anything, in 20, they're going to need to be more. So we'll see what happens with theme teams. I know you can only have a couple X factors per side, but X factors don't matter nearly as much as the passive abilities on each card. That's one thing I have discovered. As cool as it is when X factors light up, especially like offensive X factors, like defensive line X factors, those things are dominant, but offensive X factors, like that stuff can be schemed around by the defense, and that's just good gameplay to have point counterpoint. But those passive abilities are where it's at. So yeah, Yeah, sadly, I think theme teams, it'll be a lot tougher for you next year. I'm not saying it's going to be impossible. It's going to be just tougher for you. I talked about player movement, how smooth it is, and how they want to keep going along that. The playbooks, so they add a lot of plays to the offensive playbooks. Nothing was touched on defensive playbooks. So defensive playbooks are, I think, identical to last year, but they did say they are going to drop plays through the year. So look for the defensive playbooks to be updated throughout the year. Hopefully that actually comes through when they do that, because they only did it once this past year. So hopefully we get more defense through the year, but offense right now is looking hot. A lot of new additions. I love it. Absolutely am in love with the offensive additions. It'd be really cool if they did something like this every year. I don't think they will. I'm sure it was a massive undertaking, but man, really big props to them for adding all that they did to offensive playbooks so far. So huge round of applause there. All right, moving on to blockers. So they still kind of suck, right? The awareness on fullbacks, you get offensive linemen at time, halfback blockers, it's better, but I still see my fullback not targeting linebackers on like a sweep. Sweeps suck, actually. Tosses suck. Stretches are better, it feels like. So that is what it is for next year. Awareness just on offense and defense. Like, I think the worst feeling in Madden is having a guy in position to do something for you and he doesn't do anything at all. I think that is honestly what I think more people rage about, that shit part about Madden, about people not doing their jobs, than it's just like coaches in real life. Do your fucking job, right? If I have my linebacker in a certain spot in the yellow zone and the ball flies within a yard of his face, you need to make a play on that ball. You need to try and swat it. You need to try and pick it. You need to try and do something. But instead, I oftentimes see these balls fly right past linebackers. And I know EA did try to do a job where they didn't let these linebackers pick 15 yards off behind them like they could last year. Even CPUs did that to me. I think it may be... And here's the thing. The stats are a little bit lower in the linebackers, so that's to be forgiven a little bit because the zone coverages are so low. But, man, even idiots... Even professional idiots are still professionals, right? They should still make some plays that are near them. Like, these are high school type plays. So I don't want to see professionals do terrible things. Also, that issue with zones where they back up before they get to go forward to a ball, that's still there. So blue zones, yellow zones, all zones still have a way to go when reacting to a ball thrown in the air. And I really hope they don't put in like a 91 zone type fix and bullshit like that. Just make it so these zones are smarter and play like realistic to where they are, because we already have enough of the warping zones. Like, there was one RPO I played where it was a stretch alert. Stretch alerts are really good. I like those RPOs. So I do the stretch. I watched the backside linebacker. I think it was Bud Dupree in practice mode. I took it back because he crashed forward. I threw the slant. What he did was he went forward and then he just like warped backwards. Not like a warp, but like moved faster than a human could be. Like his stop momentum, move backwards, totally against the laws of physics, and pick the ball off. And I was like, okay, this is Madden at its worst, when players don't obey the laws of physics. So if they can make them more, I don't know, in tune to acceleration, deceleration, agility, laws of gravity, I would love Madden that much more for real concepts and kind of stuff like that. As for blockers, I think wide receivers screens still have a major issue where wide receivers, when they catch the ball, they don't turn up field quick enough. So turning up field after you catch the ball, still a major issue from like a standstill perspective. If you're already running, you can turn up the field pretty decently, but if you catch it on standstill, I don't know why guys have such an issue like turning, because they're in a chair turning almost, like Ron Swanson trying to avoid a customer type turning. Fumbles are an issue. I think quarterbacks should definitely fumble a lot if they take a hit, and that I don't have a problem with. It's basically they're taking the risk to the franchise for quarterbacks getting injured. Like, ask Cam Newton how this was, and ask the Panthers franchise what happens when your quarterback keeps the ball a lot and takes a lot of hits from professionals. It ends up destroying your team. So the fact that there's no team destroying when your quarterback takes a big old hit, I think it's important to give them more fumbles. And I think that's the balancing act that EA plays. So I'm all for quarterback fumbles on scrambles, on designed runs. Don't let your quarterback take hits, guys. Do not let it happen. As for running back fumbles, wide receiver fumbles, I don't like them. I don't like them happening that much. The only fumbles that I like are when a player makes a move and then gets popped and then gets stripped, right? Those are the only fumbles that I think should happen in this game. Like, if a player makes a bad decision and gets popped for it, ball hits the turf. Maybe not every time, but very frequently. Other than that, nah. I'm fine with very, 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 very few fumbles. Maybe for like tired players. So I talked about spins, jukes, trucks, stiff arms were better than last year. But that was a very small bar, very low bar to get over. RPOs were inconsistent. Sometimes some RPOs would dominate defenses, then just a slight change to that defense would have them quarterback getting hit in the backfield when he got the ball. Like, it's tough. I think maybe there's certain defenses different RPOs work better against, and like depending on where a rusher comes, your offensive line can't figure out on the RPO. And I think with RPOs, I'm not sure that like Mike IDing the Mike on them because it's a run first will help you, right? Because they say IDing the Mike on runs doesn't work and RPOs won't work. So sometimes if a guy just lines up off your tackle and there's a guy inside your tackle and you just the RPO, you're just gonna get sacked once you get the ball because your tackle doesn't recognize it because like, oh, outside my shoulder, whatever. Good luck, quarterback. Good old heads up call. But that's kind of my thoughts on 20 overall. It's definitely a step up from 19. What do you guys think? What's your opinion on 20 in the beta that you saw? I think there's some very interesting stuff. I'm very excited to get my hands on the full game. The playbook that I'd use if I could, if alternate playbooks launched for the game, would be the run heavy. Otherwise, the playbooks that most people found the most fun with that I had reply to my tweets. It's Raiders, Arizona, obviously New England. I guess Saints. I think I saw. So I said Cardinals, right? I said Arizona. Yeah, I said Arizona. So like kind of the new ones. I saw a little bit of Panthers love, and then of course some others across the board too. Colts. But that's kind of it for the final beta impressions. Hopefully this didn't drag on too long. Yeah, it dragged on too long. I'm sorry, guys. But thanks for watching. Call to action. I'll see you tomorrow.